So we just have a little gift for the women in the building, and so it's a little book and a little word, and my mom is actually going to say more about it when she speaks. But Jenny had something she wanted to say in regards.
Yeah, so the word the word that we prayed over and put together for each one of you, it's literally for each one of you women.
Yes.
Regardless of your mothering status, your age, because each one of you were created with the mothering heart of God, and you carry that no matter what. And so, and I also want to say, no matter what the grace on your life is with your children, whether it's been a hard road or a beautifully blessed road, He wants to speak right now into where you are at. And the words, even if you don't quite understand, I just ask that you would lay them before Him and really just ask Him to show you what He's saying about your season right now and how He wants to transform your mind into how you think about the mothering heart of God. So we bless you, each one of you.
Be blessed. So welcome. It's a real honor to have my mother here on Mother's Day.
Yay.
It's not every Mother's Day that I get to spend with her, so it's a joy. She's actually in town for my daughter's wedding, so that was super fun, and we're still in the afterglow of that. So you're in for a treat. I know many of you have heard my mom speak, and while she and I are not gifted with eloquent words like my dad and sister, she is full of just a deep well of wisdom, of discernment, of insight. And she has spent her life noticing what happens and what one thing leads to another and how things are connected and how God is in the midst of it. And so when she speaks, it's very profound and beautiful. So I'm very happy that she's here. My parents are the senior pastors of Life Center Harrisburg, and they've been in the ministry for 50 years and never wavered or it's just, they've been an amazing example to me of what truly godly people can look like. So, Mom?
It is wonderful to be here. And this is certainly not going to be a 3-point message, because that's not what moms do. Moms just get to talk about anything they want to talk about. So that's what I'm going to do. And I have this, let me grab this Esther Anointing book. Thanks. This Esther Anointing book is the book we handed out at Life Center. And this is Life Center Boca. Like, okay, if for any who are new. And it's, the girls at church have been completely impacted by this Esther Anointing, this gathering that is planned, and maybe you've heard about it from Lou Engle, 1 Million Women at the Mall. And this is sort of a preparation to get to it. Actually, we had Lou Engle in for a breakfast, and Marcy Leach, one of our pastor's wives, when she was cleaning up to go, there was this book at her table, and she kept asking at her place, and she kept asking, who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? So she took it home and she read it, and it really changed her life. And so everyone at Life Center is getting one of these, and everyone, women at Life Center Boca is getting one of these. And it's really just an invitation to answer God's call on your life, to be purified, to be prepared, released into your God-given assignment. And I would suggest um, having a pen, underlining things. There's a lot of gems in here, even in the chapter titles, like favor for your assignment. I think that's a word for you ladies here, and also um, the power of your perfume, your individual fragrance, and so even the chapter titles. Uh, but I felt it needed to be read sort of slow and underlined. So this is sort of your equipping for mobilizing women this year. So that's sort of what we're thinking God is doing, mobilizing women. Okay, Mother's Day. It's a very inflammatory holiday. I think it's only second to Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is a mess. Now, I must say, Hayden and Avery redeemed Valentine's Day for me because they did this surprise. Hayden flew into Pennsylvania. Avery helped him to surprise Anna. And so, but for the most part, Valentine's Day is just a big pile of disappointment and confusion. And that's it, really, usually. But Mother's Day isn't far behind because everything gets dialed up. So I don't feel like I should go on and continue talking until I address the fact that everything's going to get dialed up. And Jenny already struck that chord, so I'm gonna repeat it. You know why? It's difficult to appropriately honor someone who has sacrificed so much, and I think that's where the difficulty comes in. So all of a sudden everything's on steroids and we're reminded of everything. We're reminded of the loss of a child. We're reminded of the loss of our mother. We're reminded of the strained relationship. We're reminded of the distance, whether that's geographic or whether that is emotional. We are reminded, if we're waiting for a child, or there was a failed adoption, or a single mom and all of her struggles, or maybe there's no biological children, or maybe you don't know your biological mother, and it could just go on and on and on because there's one for every single woman here in the room, and even if you get everything absolutely perfect 1 year, then your husband is sort of obtuse and he doesn't know how to celebrate you. And that's a bit of a bummer too. I know you are people who have great attitudes, and I can always feel that about you. You are not victims. You keep rising up again and again. We were designed to feel, and so we feel stuff. And so if I don't address that, you can be thinking about that the whole time I'm talking. So I'm just going to address it right now and tell you that the Lord sees. I have nothing more to say. I don't have answers, but He sees. He sees your loss. He sees your sacrifice. He sees your victory. He sees your failure. And we can't go forward until we tell this point, He sees you. The answers come later, but He sees you. That's the best we can. I could pray some fancy prayer, but there's so many variations and so many things going on. So I bless you with the Lord that sees. And I bless you with peace for the storm. If there's a storm in you today, I'm speaking peace to that storm. So when I found out that I would be speaking this morning, I decided I would go through quote. Oh, my daughter Elizabeth said, "Mom, are you going to tell them it's your 50th Mother's Day?" And I said, "Well, no, I wasn't going to say that." She said, "You should." So yes, this is how I'm super happy to celebrate my 50th Mother's Day today. And but many of those I've been a pastor's wife, many of those I've been speaking. And so I started looking through old files. Most of them were stuck in old documents that were inaccessible anymore because of, someone says they can get them out, but I wrote them so long ago. But I found a few things. And so I'm going to give you some of the things that I pulled out of my journals. Now, one year we did this really fun thing. Women in the church came out on stage with a board, and then they flipped the board. So these are some of the things that they said. This was one of my favorite Mother's Day. You gave up your dream? That was in the front. They flipped the board and said, so I could follow mine. The next woman came out and said, growing up, we argued, and then flipped her board and said, now you're my best friend. You sacrificed so much for me, and it taught me to do the same. You poured your whole life into mine, and then you courageously released me to soar. And I love this one. You made mistakes. And now I'm a mom, and I know I don't have to be perfect to be a success. The ladies wrote beautiful. Those were just 5 of them, but and these are some of the quotes I found. If you think your life is hard, that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something right. That was a season in my life, and so these are just pulled from messages that I've given through all the different years. Oh, and this is how it felt to me mid-journey. You can see I was struggling with these next 2 quotes. Okay, to become a mother, I had to learn to care about someone more than I did about myself, and that was terrible. But who I am now is something more terrible. The protector who can't always protect, and the one with arms designed to hold, who is always having to let go. Some of us are in that place. Yeah. And then this one, it sort of goes along the same. Young mom, I know you are thinking that your life is hard and you're suffering now because you're turning into a new woman. A woman who is never allowed to be alone. For what? Only so you can be strong enough to be the woman who will be left. It's just a little funky being a mom. And now one for the older moms and the spiritual moms. The next generations are blessed because of your faithfulness, because you got up and you started over, and then you started over again. And you faced trials so that you could grow into the warm and beautiful person you are. And you've passed the tests, not all with flying colors or without repeat sessions, but you passed because you are still in the race today, and you didn't give up, and you are a courageous woman. Okay, here is a quote that I made that I wrote about heroes, which moms are. A hero has been defined by our culture as being bold, beautiful, rich, famous, talented, or fantastic in some way. But you, moms, are a classic hero. You go the distance, whatever that takes, and then you still help others on the way. And it brings me to think about how life is not a straight line forward. And this picture helps me because we think we see the goal and we want to go for it, but God takes us this way and then this way and then this way. It looks like we're never really getting toward our goal, but it is like a sailboat. And when the wind is strong, you tack this way and then you tack this way, and that's how you get forward. It's the same thing on a very steep mountain slope when you're skiing. You want to be there. This is so steep, but the only way to get there is to head this way and turn, and then head this way and then turn, and then this way. So you're never really heading true north. You're just going east and west and east and west and east and west. But you are getting there. And sometimes it feels like you're going around in a circle because you keep passing the same stuff. But it's probably a spiral, and you're a little higher this time than you were the last time you circled around. So I'm encouraged. Okay. I have one more quote here, I think. Oh, more than one thing is going on at a time. At the same time, even at the happiest moments, there seems to always be one situation in our life that we can't fix, control, explain, change, or even understand. And that's super important to know because if you've ever heard me teach, this is always the same thing. I started teaching it about 45 years ago. And it developed my theme when I was a midwife. And they threw me in. The midwife sent me and said, go to this house. This woman has had no classes. She wants her home birth, and she's already in labor. I thought, yeah, now what could I say to a woman in that state? I mean, she's in the contractions already. We have maybe 2 or 3 minutes in between where she's listening. I said, what could I even say at this point to train her for what is coming? And I feel like life is very much like this, this natural childbirth thing. There's no C-sections, there's no Pitocin, you can't speed it up, can't get it out. It's just, the natural. So when I got there, I told her, I thought the best thing I could tell her is the only thing you can expect is that it is not going to be what you expected. And the reason I told her that is because I was desperate for her not to quit in the middle, then we're in trouble. So if she knew that it was going to be a little different than what she thought, she wasn't going to panic and jump ship. That is our Christian walk. It's going to be different. It's going to be way more monotonous, way more terrible, way more amazing, way huger than you ever expected. And I just don't want anyone to quit part way through. I don't want anyone to jump ship. We couldn't in those situations because it was very dangerous. I mean, we could call an ambulance, but usually that was a bit late. And so the only thing you can expect is that it won't be what you expected. And that way, if you know that on the journey, it gives you more courage. It gives you a grace to continue. So that is my life message. So I'm going to pray for you women, but I'm going to pray for everyone. These are 4 of my favorite personal prayers. So let's pray. No matter the season, Lord, I pray that we would face each challenge with strength and creativity. And we would celebrate each day, and we would celebrate each season. Let us look back with no regrets and give us grace to live our lives loving what we have. Amen. So my message is to, and any of you who are at the women's conference or at the conference at Life Center heard me say this, but it is definitely on my heart, so I'm going to say it again in an abbreviated way. I think we're really blessed because we have 3 generations running together. We have the young, John calls it the fathers and the children and the young men. But so what I feel is happening for the young people is, and I don't feel it, I've actually witnessed it over and over again. Because of what is coming, God is wanting to get each one in position quickly. And that is a joy. He's causing people to find their life mate. He's causing people to have young people, quick career direction. And he's also causing people to get free from addictions at an early age. So by taking care of these 3 things, and he's really doing it rapidly, he's positioning a young generation to be ready for what is ahead. What John would call the young men, that would be more of the mid-range. I think Derek's life, his this year's testimony of an encounter, is a testimony and typical of what can be expected at this age, at this stage, at this time. And just the fact that one of your pastors has clearly experienced this, you get the trickle down effect. And so if that's what you would like, go ahead and start expecting that and start claiming it, because it really is. And you've experienced quite a few miracles in this environment, in this group. That's what he has for this young men, this mid-range. And then lastly, I want to read for the fathers, would be fathers and mothers, one of my journal entries. Lord, help me dispel this lie that I can't be all in because I'm not as energetic as I used to be. Forgive me if my fatigue has caused mixture, complacency, or half-heartedness. And that's when he interrupted me in my writing. And he said, you can still be all in. It's just going to look different. Your body is weaker, but your prayers are stronger. Really, we are not less useful. That's what he was trying to speak to me. And I feel like he needs to say this and wants to say this because this is a season where it's such a big thing that is coming. He needs all 3 generations running together. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's his 3-generation boy. Now, a word for you from a real prophet. Okay. Tim Sheets. For the Lord of hosts declares to his church, arise with confidence. For I have portals through the land, and what I open no one can close. I'm opening windows over the earth, and from these portals of glory, you will now experience power flows of my might that overwhelm satanic plans. That's a word I knew was for Life Center, and I'm going to read it again because it's for Life Center Boca. As I stayed here in the worship, I could tell and feel yes. So I'm going to read it again, and this is to Life Center Boca. Arise with confidence, for I have portals throughout the land, and what I open no one can close. I am opening windows over the earth, and from these glory portals, you will now experience power flows of my might that overwhelm satanic plans. I believe that's your call in prayer as a group. And these power flows, I believe this is one of the portals that is going to provide a power flow that overwhelms satanic plans. So what I've seen at Life Center, I have also seen at Life Center Boca. Some things are unique to Life Center in Harrisburg, and I'm always impressed with how he has gathered greatness. He gathers a very quality people who have been through stuff and they didn't give up. When I look out over our congregation, I just say, I cannot believe. I can't even begin to tell you because everyone has a crazy story about, and we ended up with the best people. And guess what? It came down the line. Because I don't know if it's because you're aligned with us or because we got some genetic thing going on. But once again, he decided to gather the most amazing people. People who've been through stuff and didn't quit. And it's a very powerful and unique, a unique group that he gathers here. I know you've already experienced lots of miracles and encounters. That is something that is very common at Life Center. And even I used to feel it for sure at the roads home because it was like there was a thin place. And then, of course, I worried, is it going to translate to the next place? Because a lot had been cultivated there. And would it? And will it? Yes, because he resides in each of us. And when we had this same issue when we went from our casket factory on 13th Street, it was 1994, so many miracles came. And for 6 years, we had nonstop miracles. And we had so many things that transpired. It made me afraid when we got our new building that how would this happen in the next building? There were actually angels that were assigned to that 13th Street building. And the first meeting that we had on 40th Street, which caused us a little extra stress because it had been a business center and there was a hostile takeover, and we thought, what did they leave in the building, and why are we leaving our special thin place that God has created? And when we got there, we had our first test meeting to test out the sound system. And our church secretary that had had fibromyalgia for 7 years was supernaturally healed. And we said, okay, we can go from one place to the next. And even so, you can carry the glory from one place to the next. You've already carried it from the roads home to here, and you will be able to carry it to the next place. Now, the thing I want to add, now this is more to the future. For your future, I want to bless you for when you get your property. When you get the right property, you will recognize it by this. I believe someone will say to you, I want you to have it. I wish that you could get this property. Now, whether they have the authority to give you the property or whether they don't, and I don't know if this is sooner or later. I'm not saying the battle will be easy or hard. I'm just saying I feel like you will be able to identify it. And the reason I'm saying that is because things trickle down. And when we walked into 40th Street, John and Brian had already been into the building. And then I came in second with a man who was showing us around the building. And we're going through all the beautiful rooms of the new building. And the man who's showing us turns to me and said, I want you to have it. I'm really wanting you. Now, he had no authority. That wasn't going to, he had no authority, but he got real close to me and said, I want you to have it. He didn't say it to any of the men, but he sensed, he turned, got really close, and I'll never forget it. When we got our property that we live on, we've lived there 25 years, the woman, it was such a great deal. It was a little ad in the newspaper, and about 6 or 10 people came to answer the ad, and she got them all. And then she spoke to us, and she said, I want you to have it so much I'm going to lower the price. Like, what? That it didn't even make sense. But she said, and she had the authority. She just said, I'm selling it to you. I'm going to give it to you for a lower price. You are the ones who are supposed to have this property. It has been a very special property in many ways. And then the third one was much more recent. We found this terrible fixer-upper that was, the roof was caved in and all kinds of stuff in Sarasota. It was during 2020 when things were so crazy. And the woman who was, her 91-year-old mother had just passed away, and she was the daughter, and she was showing us around. We didn't have a realtor to show us around. We just saw it from a neighbor's house, and she invited us in. And she stopped in the tour, and she turned to me and she said, my mother wants you to have this. It's insane how we got to buy it. It was just, put in bids. Nobody knows anything. No realtors know anything. Yeah, we got it. The realtors was squealing. I think we got it by $100. We accidentally upped our bid to just because we said, let's go back and give a different price. And the woman said, my mom wants you to have it. I think you're going to hear something along those lines when the time comes. So that will help you know if it's if this is it. So this is because you're aligned that these matching things happen, and I have great joy watching it. The when I do a new members class, I usually spend the time to tell our story, and then I say, these are the conclusions that we've come to over the different times from the different parts of the story, and because they've happened to us, you can expect them to happen to you. I've watched it. Yes, it's true. And so, though I'm not going to go through all the stories, I am going to go through some of the things that you can expect to happen in your life because they have already happened in ours. They've already happened in the people at Life Center. So our story is that we were very unlikely vessels. I make a joke that says if there was a high school yearbook thing that said most unlikely to become a pastor, Charles would have won it for his high school. I would have won it for mine. So it's very unlikely. And the Lord uses the unlikely, the inadequate to do the impossible. So I just want to tell you that if you feel a little bit inadequate, He's going to use you to do the impossible. And the next one is because I tell the story of our departure from California, and that we were we were well loved, but somehow it was like Joseph's brethren threw us in a pit because we had a bigger destiny, and we were ousted from the religious setup. It was because God wanted to do something new. And He wanted to do something that was out of the box, and He needed a fresh container. So if you don't exactly fit because you are sort of out of the box, then that's why He's drawn you here. We never grew up in a Christian home. Charles and I, we didn't know how to do it, and so He could start with a fresh slate to create the things that He created. And so I just want to let you know, if you are your ministry way, you didn't exactly fit anywhere, it's because you are just a little bit out of the box. And that's what He wants. This is a good place for out of the box people. I know there's going to be more words that come and explain. It's like a fresh container that, it's a fresh container, and He does great things with fresh containers, and that's what you are. Okay, when we arrived in Pennsylvania, the story is absolutely crazy. So I expect that you will also have what we got. A crazy restoration of things that have been lost. We lost a church of 1,000, and we walked in, and supernaturally the pastor said, "You're the pastor," and it was a church of 1,000. Like it just there. So you can expect that you will find your destiny, and you have a restoration of things that are lost, because it comes down the alignment. Trickles down with the alignment. And then in 1994, we started to have a lot of encounters and miracles, and you are already experiencing all of that. And then the last one that I usually talk about is that we got the best property in Harrisburg. The real estate man put an article in the newspaper that said, was this a real estate transaction or was it a miracle? It was absolutely a miracle. It was not even possible. So I expect that that's down supernatural provision for the things that you need, but I expect that's also in your connection. And then I have a new one that just happened within the last maybe 6 months. We have a pastor at our church, John Leach, perhaps many of you have heard him speaking. And he has an identical twin brother. And this identical twin brother came to church. He only comes to church like once every 5 years because he lives far away. And he's sitting in the second row. And Tiffany Yon, who leads worship, you know her, she came to me and she said, was that John's twin brother in the second row? And I said, yes. She said, I'm never leaving this place. Why? Because John looked so young and vibrant, and his twin brother seriously looked 15 years older. And people at Life Center just look better. I'm not kidding you. And I think you have that. It's the presence of the Lord. I don't get it. And she just nailed it. She said, I'm never leaving this place, because she saw what happens when you're in the presence of the Lord. And even though he's a Christian and he's amazing, he's a principal of a big Christian school. But she said, I'm never leaving this place. So that's a good, and then you're right next door to some kind of beauty treatment place. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to add that one just for fun. I haven't told all the new members about that one. Yeah. So you can expect that you're going to have these things. So I wrote down that there's going to be attractive, capable people, out of the box risk takers, that he's gathering greatness, that you're going to be down to earth, authentic, but out of this world. It's like a naturally supernatural thing. And like I said before, I didn't know if it comes down only from alignment or if it comes down also you get the double dose of it being through the genes. But I do want to tell you one little thing of why. One Thanksgiving morning, we were at the Rhodes house, and we were Fiona had duty to the airport, and so at 4 a.m. she's taking one group of people back to the airport, and she's in the boys' bathroom, and the Lord at 4 a.m. and the Lord says to her, "Look out the window." So she looks out the window. Why would she look out the window? But there's these men running around in the car, on the driveway. And so she goes downstairs and she wakes up her parents and says, there's men. There's people with hoods out in the car, in the driveway. So Derek gets up and they start running, and barefoot with hardly any clothes on, he chases them down and apprehends one of the thieves, grabs him. Then Anastasia comes. Now, Derek is concerned about being, liable. So he wants to video it all so that he doesn't get, so he's videoing, and Anastasia is holding the thief, restraining the thief, and talking on the phone to the police to get them. It took them 8 minutes to get there. So she's restraining the thief. And by this time, I feel like it's okay if I go see what's happening, because Hayden is in front of me. So, and I know Hayden can take care of anything. So I'm behind Hayden, and we arrive. And so this thief is fighting and trying, the other two escaped, is trying to get away. And Hayden grabs the shirt, the sweatshirt, like this, and lifts the thief up, and just calms right down, because there was the feeling, oh, I'm not getting away. And this is it. The thief could feel the power, the authority. So it ended up being a female, this thief. So I'm walking back. I said, okay, looks like we have it under control, Fiona, and you can drive the rest of the people to the airport. I said, this was quite remarkable, this catching of the thief. And she turns to me and says one word, 2 words: The Incredibles. And I said, yes, have you ever seen that little animation? It looks like it's an ordinary family, but everyone has a superpower. I'm telling you, that's a real thing. You have a superpower, and you have a superpower. You have a superpower, it's something. I mean, you're going to get a lot of things from Life Center, but that is specific to this place. The Incredibles. You have a superpower. You each have a superpower. And I just, that sounds a little silly, but they've apprehended now 2 thieves in their community. No one's apprehended anything. Just the roads, whether Derek's there or not, they apprehend thieves. They keep the community safe. That is your calling. And that's why he's called you to prayer. To apprehend the thief and to keep the community safe. That's one of your callings, and it's just played out in a little story here. So what do you do with the prophecy? You write it down. You make it as normal as you can. You give it time. You believe in it, and then you know that it won't be what you expected, because it's going to play out differently than what you thought. And I'm going to give this one last little story about Kim Clement, which he brought to my mind 2 weeks ago, before the Voice of the Prophets conference. I remembered a time when Kim Clement, for those of you who don't know, he was a very significant and famous prophet, and he loved to come to our church. He only went to about 5 churches in the nation, and sometimes he'd say, I need to get to Life Center because it's open and I need to get a word from the Lord. So he's ministering, he's up on the stage, and he calls, and some of you have heard this before, and he says, November 26th. Anything, November 26th. And Sue Roby, you know Sue Roby, she's very excited. She charges up, that's my anniversary. So she comes up on stage. Then Tiffany quietly says, yeah, that's my anniversary too. So he has Tiffany and Sue standing, this is 15 years ago, standing up, and he says, oh my goodness, well, you're ministering to me, I'm not ministering to you. You see, I have a brother and sister, and guess what their birthdays are? November 26th. And one of them's life, my brother's life, was cut short way too young. But that's not the case in your life. And you're ministering to me. I'm not ministering to you. And he was seeing into the future. And for those of you who know, Sue Roby had the miracle of having 5 organs removed, and it's 13 years later, and she's still alive. And they say, well, she goes to the doctor and said, well, we don't have any advice for you because we never saw anyone live this long who doesn't eat food. Are you a breatharian? Like what? And many of you know Tiffany Yon's story of how she was dead in the ambulance and then resurrected from the dead. It's not the case in your case. You're not going to go early, and your testimony is ministering to me. Well, Tiffany came to me and she said, I was so irritated that word. Oh, great. So I don't get a word? I ministered to the prophet, but big deal. And when I said this to her, she said, oh, now I understand. So understand that prophecies, we don't get it. It takes some time. So we have to hold it, wait. We don't add to the words, and we write it down and we wait and see which way it will unfold, because it will unfold. When I think of Kim Clement, I think of Anastasia and Derek. They're holding little baby Hayden. I think he's 6 months old, and Fiona is crawling around in the front right by Kim, and he gives a word over Fiona, but then he looks to Anastasia and he said, a mother of many children. And I thought, might have gotten that one wrong because I think they already have permanent arrangements. And then there were two more. And then when you hear about how many kids these kids are planning to have, it is a mother of many. Because if you study the scriptures, I love this part. There's several times in scriptures where it said a grandparent, it said, and their son. So Hayden, he's my son. I mean, that's biblically. So many children, yep, doesn't play out the way exactly we thought, but the word of the Lord is true. So I'm just encouraging you concerning prophecy. So we actually have, I'm going to say one more thing about this season. I believe it's a Nehemiah time where we're going to have both a tool and a weapon. And that's how we're going to build, and we're also going to pray. And we did it wrong in our era. The narrative, the 1970s narrative was the Lord is returning, so don't go to school. I mean, we went against that. Population explosion. You can have one child, but two is really pushing it. And that was the narrative in ours. So, this is from Dutch Sheets, there was such a preoccupation with Christ's imminent return that most evangelicals didn't see the need for impacting the cultural mountains of government, education, etc. And the result is the church did March 16th. They worked to get the people saved. We did. Unbelievers did Matthew 28. They worked to disciple and reform the nation, and both succeeded. We experienced revival, and we lost our nation. But now you're smarter. You're smarter. And we fought with the revelation we had, but now you have the greater revelation. You know to build and fight with. Don't just pray with your weapons, but you can build, and you have power and authority in the calling that you're in the workplace. And so I'm just grateful that this generation has greater revelation. Also, they're planning to have lots of kids, which that's the 50-year plan. That's the 50-year plan. So for our Mother's Day gift to you today, Charles is going to conclude this message with a little activity. So here you have it, hon.